right, how are my levels here? Looking good. I should have checked that before I started, but I haven't changed them since the last stream I did, which was all the alien isolation videos that I made, which again was an absolute blast. Really enjoyed it, and that's kind of sparked an interest in doing this a little bit more. But this one is not going to be a coding stream, or it is going to be a coding stream. This is not a live play, though I'm got a whole list of games that I'm going to download and start playing and do that as well. Because again, I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun doing that. So this one is just going to be a coding stream. And there's a couple things that I'm just going to work on. I actually have a whole list here of things that I can do, but we'll see what I get through this morning. It's Mother's Day today, so to all mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Our tradition in my family here is if it's Mother's Day, Liz gets breakfast in bed. If it's Father's Day, I get breakfast in bed. And then we basically let whoever day it is, them get whatever they want. So she got breakfast in bed, and we're actually going to go for a walk before lunch because it's supposed to rain here this afternoon. Maybe. There's a chance of rain. So we're going to get in a walk before that. So I'm going to work on a couple things here for however long I want to stay on, and then we'll wrap it up. So it'll probably be about an hour or two. See how the spirit moves me this morning. I do have my coffee, so that's a good thing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is this project IronBefunge. So let me actually open that one up. I don't even have it. Well, I don't even have it cloned here. We need to fix that. Yeah. Oh, where did I put that? I better not have put that in the wrong spot. I did. Okay, I did not put it in the wrong spot. I put it in the right spot. Okay. So this thing is, if you've ever seen or heard of esoteric programming languages, that's what this is. And it's a language that looks like, once I get the solution open and everything. Well, that's a disconcerting sound. I'm hearing a little bit of a something when my fan kicked in. I don't know. Oh, well. Hopefully it's not a sound of bad things to come. But what is this? So if I go into this code, this actually will do the sequence that I love doing whenever I do demos, which is the Colot sequence. And if I make this my start, I got to remember how I did this. Oh my God, a program main? We got to, oh no, I do. That's right. See, I come back to projects sometimes and I'm like, what was it that I was doing? And I'm using dragon fruit. That's why this is got this kind of odd main method. I'll come back to this in a moment. Let's make this Colots B. Okay, and then we'll start that up. Oh, that's so, okay. Well, this is actually what I'm getting at. Why I'm doing this, because I do not have 7 installed. In fact, I think, when did .NET 7 end of life? When did that happen? That was either recent. Oh, so it's coming up. Okay, I knew it was either it happened or it was coming up. Oh no, I'm actually wrong. The end of support date is actually last year. Wait, that 2023. It is 2024. And we got .NET 8 at the end of last year. That doesn't... Released in November 2022. The end of support date for .NET 7 is June 22nd, 2023. That would mean it only had 6 months of support. Which I don't think this is right. I think it's mathing wrong. Let's go look at the official one. Patch version, end of support. Yeah. So it actually is ending in 2 days. So if you're like me with this little project, if you have things that are targeting .NET 7, you got 2 days to get off of it before you don't get any support. So one of the things that I'm doing here, and actually let's just undo this quick. Just that I do the right thing. Let's do git new branch, and then I'll just say update to net 8. There we go. Nope. There. Okay, so let's put this back then just so I can illustrate the point, which I can't because that's right, we got to come up here and got to change that copyright because that's critical. Let's make this 8. And arguably this would be a breaking version, even though I don't think I actually publish this. Do I? I don't think I actually publish this as like a NuGet package, which I arguably could. I could take the host and put it in as a NuGet package, which would be a tool, and then you could run this as a tool. Odd way of distributing, but that could work. But in any event, let's run this now. And of course, now we're getting, this is the fun of having an analysis mode on all. And what's the other one? Treat warnings as errors as true. Is that I upped the version to 8, the target framework version. And now that's bringing in a whole slew new of these analyzers. Mostly these are in tests. And so I've seen this one before, and I've just kind of ignored it because it feels a little like when you do the refactoring, it feels a little weird. But let's give this a whirl and see what happens. I have on a project that I'm working on right now for work, we're doing all the latest and greatest. We're doing .NET 8. We're doing C# 12, of course. So all the new stuff, but we're trying to use primary constructors, which feels a little weird. And I know there's some little gotchas you've got to be concerned about. But I'm like, the only way I'm going to learn it is to actually do it and use it on a project. So I'm forcing myself on this project because it's not a huge project. It's a service that's going to run and do some integrations with other services. So it's important, but it's not like it's a big code base. So figured let's give it a whirl on this one and see what happens. And I'm starting to warm up to the feature. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just, I didn't know if I really was all on board with it. But what I'm going to be doing with this one is use collection expressions. Well, that actually, see, that's better. I like that. And let's just do that in the entire project. Well, actually, let's do it in the whole solution. There we go. Because I really like collection expressions. Now, that should have got rid of some of these. Yes, in fact, here, there's that. Perfect. Because I really like, I like the throw if pattern. So we'll keep that in place. So now let's rebuild. Let's run all tests because we should run all tests before we run our code, right? Because that's being a good citizen of the world. And they all pass, so that's good. Now let's actually run the code again so you can see what this does. So please enter a value. I put in, what is this doing? There we go. Oh, I guess it didn't have the focus because I'm like, why is it not taking my input from the keyboard? But okay, it did. So there you go. And then it closes the window. So again, let me run that again. Remember that the sequence is, if it's odd, you multiply by 3 and add 1 to get the next number. If it's even, you divide by 2. Okay. So here you see it was an odd, so we go up to 16, and then they're even, and you go down. So that's one of the easiest sequences to converge. If I run this again, and I say 33, see, it takes a little bit longer to get down, but it eventually gets to 1. And this code here is what just ran to do that. And so you may be looking at this and going, what in the world is this doing? So this esoteric language, it starts up at the top left corner of your code. And every character is an instruction, more or less. Okay, so this instruction says move down. This one says go to the right. And white space is ignored. This one says move down. Now I have to remember, this pushes a null on the... There's a virtual stack that exists in IronBefunge. And this is a good reminder. This says I'm entering string mode. And now I want to push characters onto the stack. So I push an R, an O, a T, an A, and so on. Okay, and this says I'm exiting string mode. So now this is saying that when you do this, it says interpret everything next as a literal ASCII character. Okay. And now we move down, and this one, oh, what does this do? I forget. But then you go up. I think you're going around until you get to a 0 on the stack. And then once you get to a 0, I think one of these is a command to say put in the input, which is what we're asking for. This moves down and this moves over. And a lot of these that are moving over is just so that this is not like there's no official comment syntax for Befunge. But if you just skip over characters like this, then you can put in these comments. And I just use the C-style notation for comments, but you could do whatever you want here. These characters never get hit in code. So they're effectively comments. This one moves down, over, and then you can kind of see, if you look really hard, you get that times 3 plus 1 scenario. And this is seeing is it divisible by 2. And then there should, or yeah, I think okay, sorry, we're moving this way. We see module 2 if it's 0 or 1, and then move down here. This goes either this way, and then we move down, over, and I think print out. That's right, that prints out. We come over here, go back, move down, go over. And this is kind of like the snake game, if you remember that. You then you move up here, and you go down, and you keep going through until you get to the end, which this is if the current value is 1. Current value minus 1 is 0, we're done. And then you would eventually quit. I think that's what the queue does. So again, running this code, that's what it does. Okay. So for this one, that's all I really wanted to do, is move this into .NET 8 and be done with it. But it was kind of a fun excursion into running this and giving a brief demo on what this does. If you want to see all of the guts and the glory about what happens, I believe, if I remember right, the interpreter, you basically give it all the code or like a file and so on, and eventually you get down to interpret, which executes all your code. Okay. And there's a parser in here, which is very simple. All I do is parse every character within the code. And I don't try to optimize out, like you saw here, these, where I go, oh, this would never get executed. Because there's a command in Befunge that you can basically say, that cell over there, change it to this new instruction. And so your program can dynamically change as it's executing. So you may have characters over here that initially didn't do anything, but then they will later on. So you can't rule that out. But, oh, what's this saying? Use collection expressions. Sure, why not? I love the little smudges. Use collection expressions. Sure, why not? What else do we have that are like informational? The primary constructor one, I'm not going to mess with that one right now. Collection expressions can be simplified. Really? Because I love collection expressions. So let's do that. Beauty. Love it. Love it, love it. Let's see where else it's. So now it should have picked that one up. Hopefully it starts seeing, as it goes through and executes the analyzers and picks up like what I could or could not change. And again, these are just helpers. And this is one thing I've mentioned to people about C# is you don't have to move to the latest and greatest language feature. You can stay on whatever it is you want. I don't have to change these to collection expressions. My code is perfectly fine the way it was. But, you know, in this case, I like the feature of collection expressions. So that's why I'm changing them. New can be simplified. Can it? New. Oh, yeah, that one. See, this is one that I don't like because I think this makes it actually harder to read. I already have a new within there, and you might go, well, what? See, the target type new is a little dicey. When you do it in line like this and you end up potentially having code that looks like that, well, you know you're going to put in a new cell, but then I already had this here. What's actually getting passed into the cell? It's a point. Okay, well, arguably this is actually not good because what are you actually passing in here? So if I took this off, it would be fine because it knows, oh, you're making a new cell object. And so then I can pass that in here. But it also potentially, you know, it's the argument with var. Do I put a type there, or do I let the compiler figure out what the correct type is? In both cases, it's going to be strongly typed. It's not like that's dynamically typed, but it's just, you know, do I like typing var or do I like typing list to cell? Personally, I like var. But then in this case, does that make it a little bit harder to read? So let's go back to these and see, yeah, all these new cells, new points, you know. You notice, though, that it doesn't put it here, which is interesting because I wonder if the rule that it's trying to follow, the heuristic, is like if I did it here and I took this off, it would say, okay, great. Well, now you know you're going to pass in a point. So it doesn't give me the option here of doing a can be simplified, even though I could do that. I could easily do that. And so I think what it's saying is the outermost one is the one to give the recommendation on, not the innermost one. And so I kind of look at this and go, maybe what I should have been doing is point here, and then all of these do that. Because you know by reading this is what you're going to pass in. But then you don't know exactly what's going to be going into the constructor. It's not as easy to read. I kind of like that. You know, I kind of like that. I wonder, let's do a search here first. Let's do a new point where I say new. Why didn't you find that? Match case. Huh. I don't really care about tests per se. Or are all these in tests? Oh, they are. Okay, so new point. I'm just looking for to see if I actually have a case where, oh, I want new cell. That's what I want. Yeah. So anywhere where, let's do this. Anywhere where I'm doing this, new cell, new, let's change it to new cell, new point. Okay. And then we're going to say in the current project, replace all, because that's what I like. But now what I'm going to do is, and see in this case, it's not even giving it here. But again, if I come back and look for the cases where I could simplify it, see, I can get on board with this. So let's say project and apply. That I can actually like, and some people may not like that, but that seems to be like it makes sense to me. I actually like it when these are over. I don't know why they're not. That's actually kind of annoying. Yes, I'm kind of a neat freak when it comes to code, but, you know, Everybody's got their issues, right? But it's just weird because these are over by like a tab in a space and they shouldn't be. So one moment while Jason cleans up all of his code. But styling and code consistency, I personally find to be a good thing to do. Yeah, like this one. Why did this get like all the way over there? And why are you doing that? Just do that. Oh, I should put all these asserts in a... Oh, I do have them in a multiple. Okay, never mind. I was like, why are they not a multiple? They should be. I wish Visual Studio at this moment right now would pick up that you're doing this all over the place. Would you like me to do this for you? Because this is really boring, but necessary. Yeah, like why here? Why have all that space? Why? Oh my God. This can't abide. It's just wrong. And see here, you can't do a collection expression, I think here. It doesn't let you do that. So, which would be kind of nice. But now I gotta, I think because I removed all the new cells and it got a little confused as to what the spacing should be on them, but that's okay. I would get collection expressions if I actually named or typed cells to be of a list cell, then I think I would. And then that arguably is where you'd want to have the type on the left-hand side, but, you know. It's all good. It's all good, man. All right, let's keep going and clean up more stuff. My wife and I saw... was a movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, last night. And I liked the first three. I liked this one too. It was a good movie. Again, the whole movie is an effect. You know, it's because the apes just it's astounding how movies can do what they do these days in terms of the effects. The human characters, you know, even though the actors are good actors, I don't know who the main woman was. I've never seen her before, but you know, William H. Macy has been around for quite a long time. I felt their characters were kind of serving a plot and not necessarily getting developed as like William H. Macy's character was just kind of there. It just felt like it's filling a purpose or serving a need. It really didn't get as well developed as I think it could have. But, you know, you've got a lot going on in a movie. There's only so much you can cover. I did feel I don't want to say too much to ruin any plot points, but the ending was, from a physics standpoint, a little weird. I'll just say that. The way the water went seemed like it was being a little bit too far-fetched to me. I'll just say that. You have to see the movie to understand what I'm getting at, but nevertheless, I thought it was good. I like how they're now at the point where the apes are pretty much, you know, they have their own societies, they have their own groups, you know, and stuff like that, and the humans are kind of, I won't say they're not devolving, but they're how do I want to say it? You know, they're the ones that are the apes are, you know, they're already at the point of, the humans actually did all this? Like, I can't believe this because they don't seem like they're able to do any of this stuff. But this definitely also sets up, and I read this, that they're going to be making another trilogy of movies around. And I love the little symbolism about Caesar and the symbol from the window, that is still there. I don't know how they say, generations later, hundreds of years later, whatever you want to say. But that's still the symbol of Caesar. And it all started from this pattern in a window when he was being in his household. And, you know, that's how the whole thing starts in the first movie. Is I think his mother was injected with some new therapy, and he inadvertently gets the benefits, and he starts becoming smarter and smarter. But the virus has also the effect of being highly, I guess, toxic to humans, if I remember right, and kills off the majority of humans. So, and then the apes just keep getting smarter and smarter over time. So, anyway, like the movie and like the way it's been done. So, or the movie series, I liked all three of them, and I like this one, and I would be happy to see any more. All right, I think we're done with all this silliness of code formatting, and I can move on to something else. They should have is like background music going on at this point. But because there's some features I want to do that they'd be simple to do, but there's going to be a lot of like just brain dead code fixes going, I missed those. There we go. No, go up. And I also have been inconsistent about, do I have a line there or not, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Is that close to? Not quite yet. Not quite. All right. I think they were really all in the tests for the instruction handlers that was showing up on. Yeah. All right, so we only have 3 left with primary constructors. So what am I making? Just working on some code fixes and improvements on some repositories that I have. This one's called IronBefunge, which is an interpreter for an esoteric programming language called Befunge. And I'm about to move on to some other stuff. It's targeting a version of .NET that's not installed. I wonder if it's because I opened this and I had it at 7 and now I have it at 8. Because all of these should not have a target framework in place. They should all be deriving it from the props. Yeah. So I wonder if I close this and I open it up again, if it would pick up that I'm now on 8, and therefore I shouldn't get that little warning. Yep, I don't get that warning anymore. All right. So, cool. Updated to .NET 8 and made some minor code factorings. Push. All right. No, we're not going to do a pull request on my own stuff. We'll just merge it in. And push. All right. That got that done. And we're good. All right. So I think that was one of the things on my list. That one's done. I'm going to move on to rocks here. This one is just a minor thing, but one thing I noticed when I was actually using, because again, this project that I'm working on at work, we're I convinced the other developer, let's give my rocks mocking framework a try if we need to write mocks. And he I don't say conceded, that meant we had an argument, but he agreed. I also put in the caveat of, if we run into any issues using it on the project, I will make sure that I back it all out and we pick another framework, and I'll get all the tests updated that way. In any event, one of the things I noticed, I think it was actually when I was doing the update for a presentation I did at a conference where I was showing code coverage and testing and stuff, is all of the generated code for rocks ends up showing up in a code coverage report, which you could argue and say that's exactly what I would want to see. But in reality, it isn't, because you may want to mock a type, and that type has 5 mockable members. But for your testing, you only need to do one of them. And that's exactly what a mocking framework gives you, is it lets you just do what you need to do. So that other code is just sitting there and it will never be executed in a test. And that's exactly not what you want, because then your code coverage numbers will go down. So what you can do here is put this attribute on your code. Okay. And then if it's run in any code, if it's run with tests are run with code coverage being captured, then this code will be ignored. And so this will be easy in the sense that I just have to put this attribute on the main outer class, the expectations class. I don't have to do it on everything else. And according to the documentation, then everything should just fall through, which is good in terms of all the other stuff within it gets ignored. But what that's going to also do is just have the ripple effect of all my tests suddenly are going to break, because the diffs on them in terms of the generated code will be like, why is this here? And it shouldn't be here. So it's just going to be a lot of fixes on tests for this diff. And that's one thing I get a little bit annoyed about with doing source generation testing, because if you ever change what you generate for source, your diffs can end up getting off. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let's actually dive into this. So let's open a project. Let's go to rocks, source, rocks. And it should be on main, right? Yep. Okay. So let's go to that. And let's make a branch. Get new branch. All right. Okay. So what we really want to do is in the builders, when we are generating the code, where does this actually happen? I always got to think for a second. Where did I do all the things? Right here. And this is for a create. So what we want to do here is say, and what would that actually be? Exclude. Yes, it should be this. Yeah, that's what we want. So let's put that right there. And that should be it for the one type of mock type that you can create. And then the other one is in the makes. So where's that? Here, I believe here. And so now what we want to do is change this up a little bit. No. We want, Actually, we can keep it as that. Okay. And then we'll do that and that. There. So now we have that in place, and make sure I don't have any like extraneous extra things at the end. Okay, cool. So now I know if I run the unit tests, they're going to break. But what I want to do is run all my integration tests and also the code generation tests with this. So what I'm going to do is now just close this. Say close, and then bring it up again. And then I will say, let's run the integration tests, because these shouldn't break. Just because I put an attribute on stuff, they shouldn't break. So let's say run tests. This will take a little bit of time, but not too much. These ones actually run fast because they've already pre-built the mocks and everything. These actual tests, every single test has to create a compilation. It has to drive the generator. It has to get the results and diff them, so they take longer. But these all passed, so that's good. Let's make that the starting project and run that. And this one should take about a minute or two. But this is also an illustration of sometimes you need to build different tools for testing. Doing what I do in here, trying to fit them into a testing framework, would have been extremely difficult and actually not very productive. So building a custom app to essentially build mock types for all these NuGet packages, it would be a good thing to do. Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look at my PC. It's getting a rattling noise now. It's a little disconcerting, but oh well. So yeah, this just I just have a whole references to a whole ton of NuGet packages here, and so it just looks through and says which types in the assemblies from these packages could I create a mock for. And then it goes off and just it just makes the mock types and compiles them and sees if there's any errors. It doesn't try to actually exercise them and run them. But this has been a huge aid in helping me out find these just incredibly bizarre and unexpected bugs that you wouldn't see otherwise. And just things that people do in code that I didn't anticipate, didn't think that you could do. And finding those out has been a little hard at times, but it's also, I think, made rocks extremely flexible and defensive. So the more scenarios I find, the better. What I really should do at the end of the day is go, okay, from a coding standpoint, like from a C# language standpoint, what can I do? What is possible? And then I would potentially find a lot more things before they show up as somebody else doing them. But it is what it is. It's a little dicey too with this thing. I can't just rely upon this completely because it's possible, and it actually has happened where libraries change things, they break things, or they add in new types that I didn't anticipate before. So I can't just use this application as a way to test my library. But as you can see here, we go through almost 100 assemblies. We find just over 15,000 types we can mock, and in about 2 minutes, just under 3 minutes, I went through all of them and confirmed that none of them create a compilation error. So that's good. So our integration tests pass, our code generation tests pass. So let's at least commit that and say added attribute to mocks. And as you can see, it's only 2 lines. It was just 2 files, which is pretty nice. But now, let's go into the tests here. And I bet it's going to be like 120. There's like a handful of tests. The number always comes up around that when I break something in the generated code. And you're going to see here, I'm just going to have to go through all of these files and change all the code, which is going to be very boring to watch, but it's a Sunday morning. It's a relaxing Sunday morning, right? It'll come back eventually. Yep, well, 214 failed. But that was expected because why are you, there you go. So if I move all the way down here and I go into one of these, you'll see that the error is something like, yes, you have this here. That shouldn't be there. So now I got to go through and do that everywhere. But at least it's only one. It's only one line of code. I know exactly where it needs to go. And so I hopefully can rip through these in a very short amount of time and not have too many issues doing that. Okay. So no better time like the present, right? Let's move my mouse off of here so that that doesn't stay up. And okay. Know any good jokes? Okay. The thing is, I don't want to screw up doing this either, because if I inadvertently add in space or I inadvertently put in one extra character somewhere, you know, the whole thing has to be revisited, and that's just a boring time. But this also shows that this is something that, you know, with all the best intentions and everything that you can possibly think of, that you don't always cover all the cases. And like this showed, sometimes you have to actually use this in a real world scenario and do it in a particular way for something to show up that you didn't anticipate, you know, which is run tests with code coverage on. It doesn't break anything. It gives you numbers that you didn't expect. And this shouldn't be part of your code coverage numbers. So and to be fair, code coverage numbers are not a panacea. They simply tell you that your code has been executed when you've been running tests, which is a good thing to know. Having 95% code coverage, I would say, is better than 5%, but it doesn't mean that your tests are good. It doesn't mean you're asserting anything. It doesn't mean that, you know, you have good tests. It just means that you've actually run code when you've been testing stuff. So that's why I like mutation testing, which I did run on this when I was doing my presentation preparation for a conference that I spoke at last week. I did run Striker, which is a mutation testing tool, on this stuff. And it took a long time, and there was definitely some errors and things that showed up, but with just the testing framework itself, the mutation testing framework. But it was good from the perspective of just exercising this out. And it did find a couple things in there that I should come back and document and say, okay, add test to this. Make sure I'm testing like the exception message. That's the big one, because it catches that if you change the string to an empty string, do you have a test that verifies that? And of course I don't, because I didn't really care about testing the actual message of the exception, but I should. So I need to, oh, I closed that window a little bit too quick. Okay. Yeah, this isn't just the unfortunate. There's lots of unfortunate things with source generators. I absolutely love them. And I think they're an extremely powerful tool that, given the right circumstance and context, they can do some very cool things. But they also don't have a lot of good support from a tooling perspective. Testing these can be a pain in the butt. And it doesn't seem like, because they're just not used or built as much as other things you do typically as a .NET developer, it doesn't seem like they're going to get much love in the future either, which, it is what it is, you know. You just have to know what the... And there's not limitations with source generators in and of themselves, but if you're going to package them up, if you're going to reference other NuGet packages, if you want to test them, if you change things and you want to run your tests, that, you know, things don't get picked up, things that are referenced in packages get to be extremely squirrely and if they have references to other things, that gets really, really hard to figure out what you all need to include in your package. In fact, I got somebody from, not that I got somebody from Microsoft to admit like it was a conspiracy, but just somebody saying, yeah, it can get very hard to, you really want to minimize the amount of dependencies you have in your source generator, because I've read all the articles and all the tricks that people have done to potentially mitigate that and minimize it. But I still had a project internally at work that we were going to go down a road of perdition, and we're like, nope, backing this out, not doing this, you know. So, but with all that said, I still, again, given the right context, source generators can be an extremely powerful thing. All right, so nope. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's going to take some time, but we're getting there. And unfortunately, there's no easy way, at least reliable way. I'm sure you could write Copilot, write me a regex that I could do a find all and replace, but I'd have to look for like internal seal class and then characters, and then look for either create or make expectations, and then put this line above every single one in my tests and do it right. And I'm sure somebody who knows regexes very well would be able to do that and get this done in about 2 seconds, but I am not, and it would take me a lot longer to do that. And so I just do it by hand. And with this one, yeah, it's a little annoying, but it's simple. When I've done fixes or changes with the generated code, it can become like a long effort to update all the code. Open generics, yes. I love that I added that to rocks. It's a small thing, but it taught me a lot. I learned some new things about C# doing it, but I also can now say I'm the only mocking framework that actually allows you to target an open generic. All of them, including rocks, have always been able to say if you have a type that you're targeting that has generics, you can mock it, but you have to specify the types when you build a mock. Now I can say, no, you don't need to do that. It will generate the mocking infrastructure with everything open, and then when you actually create the expectations, you then specify what the types are. So that gives you more flexibility. More flexibility in that you really should mock everything as an open generic at this point. And then when you create the expectations class, you then specify the types. At some point, I may actually, as I'm talking through this, I should make a note on that. Notes. Rocks. Maybe don't allow closed generics to be specified. And everything should be open. And the reason I say that is because if you give a closed generic for rocks to mock, that works, but then if you create it with a different type here and a different type here, is generating a whole new set of expectation types and the types to support that. Whereas if you did it as an open generic, it's just one set of types, and that would work for everything in your project. So I'm almost wondering if what I should do in the future, like I just wrote down, is just not allow closed generics to be mocked. You need to do it as an open because it's actually the right thing to do. But I don't have a lot of users of this framework, so arguably that's a nice position to be in because I can make changes and not worry about breaking the world, though I would do it right in the sense of I wouldn't just put it in there and then say to people, haha, you're now screwed. I would like if more people use this because I put in a lot of time to it. I'm kind of proud of the work I've done with it, and it'd be cool to actually see people use this. But at the same time, it's kind of nice having stuff out in open source where nobody really uses it, so nobody bugs you and expects you to fix bugs yesterday. That's an uncool aspect of open source. Remember one time, this was back in the late 90s, I had written some articles for a tool called PowerBasic, which was trying to compete with Visual Basic and be a basic dialect that allowed you to do powerful things, hence the term PowerBasic. And at the time I was getting a little frustrated with Visual Basic because, it's Visual Basic, but VB was a great language and tool to let you build a lot of things rather quickly, and it worked relatively well, But as soon as you want to do something that was, I'm probably going to, as I'm talking, I'm probably going to be missing some of these. Let's make sure that I'm just going in the order that I have them show up in the Test Explorer. Anyway, so I wrote I think 3 articles on how you could do multi-threading in PowerBasic. And because there was a whole bunch of things in VB that made that very problematic, to say the least. In any event, I write these articles. And at the time, my wife and I lived in Wisconsin. And one of the things that we were doing with our nieces and nephews is we give our in-laws a break, and we would, if they'd be, we didn't want to take them if they're really young. We wanted them to be at least 12 so we could not have to deal with complete meltdowns or anything like that. But we'd say, hey, they could stay a night with us. We'd take them to a restaurant that they want to go to, just hang out with them, play games, and just get to know some of our nieces and nephews a little bit better. And we had one nephew over. His name was Ben. It's not like he's dead. He was over, and we were about to leave our apartment to go to dinner. So it was around 5 or 5:30, and the phone rang. And of course, this is well before cell phones and everything like that. And I thought I should just let it go to our, what do they call that? The tape recorder that would actually tape messages. And I'm like, nah, I'll just answer it quick. Maybe it's Ben's, parents, or they wanted to tell us something real quick. I don't know. I was just like, okay, I'll just answer real quick. So pick up the phone, say hello, and some guy responds, and he's like, hey, is this Jason that wrote these articles? I was like, that's kind of odd because I didn't have my phone number listed. Though back in those days, those were the days of white pages and stuff like that. So somehow he got my phone number. I don't know how, but looked it up and I was like, okay. I was like, yes, that's me. And he was like, I really need your help with something in Power Basic and could you help me out? Now, it wasn't even something that I wrote about. I don't think it was even anything to do with like concurrent programming or threading or anything like that. He just wanted free consulting help is what it sounded like. And I was like, well, I said, I might be able to help you out. I said, but I've got plans right now. I'm about to go to dinner. So, could you send me an email and maybe I could help you out that way? Well, then he responds with, but I really need to get this done. It's for something I'm doing at work and I got to have this done by Monday. Can you please help me? So it's like the rule of 3 with the bosses in video games. I said, well, I have plans. I don't have time right now to help you. I said, but if you send me an email, maybe I could help you out. And then he responds, and his voice is starting to get kind of on edge. He's like, but I really need help. I really need you to help me out with this. I can't get anybody to help me with this. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like he's starting to panic almost. And I finally just said, listen. He stopped talking. And I said, I'd like to help you out and maybe I can, but I got plans tonight. And quite frankly, this is getting to be a little, I think I said almost, this is getting to be kind of rude. And I said, I need to go. So send me an email and maybe I can help you. And then there was a pause and he said, oh, okay, sorry. Said, thank you. And I hung up, went to dinner. And sure enough, the next day he eventually emails me and he's profusely apologizing and saying, sorry. And then here's my problem, which of course I didn't know the tool that well at all. So I couldn't, I didn't know how to help him, but I reiterated to him, I'm like, I said, I appreciate your apologizing. I said, because that was going too far, and I did not appreciate, I said, I would have been more than I try to help you out, but I'm internally thinking, now that you came at me with that attitude, I'm not really interested in helping you out at all. And then I just said, frankly, what you're looking at or what you're trying to do, I really don't know the tool that well, and I can't help you out. I said, but there are forums on the site, people that can help you out. So maybe post your issue there and see what comes up. And I never heard about that since. But that was a very early reminder about how some people can feel very entitled to asking for free help. And again, I get it. Developer community, we all want to help each other out. And I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. I keep closing too fast. Not public chat. There. I'm absolutely 100% more than happy to help somebody out. But I also have what everybody else has, which is limited time. And there comes a point where it's like, if it was something about the articles that I wrote and he was having an issue with that, I'd be very helpful. Because I'm like, if I screwed up, that's on me, and I would try to help out more. If it's just some random, like in this case, C# question with what I'm working on right now, yeah, I'd be fine if somebody was actually watching me or would watch one of my videos and ask questions. Sure, would love to help you out. But within reason. I mean, I have time. I have limited time, just like everybody else has limited time. And there's only so far I'm going to go with helping. I can't imagine what it's like to be on some open source projects where people are literally working for free, and you get these big companies or whatever that have been using that software forever for free, and then come in with an attitude of entitlement, like that you have a bug in your code and it's causing us issues. on our production system. So you need to go out there and fix it. Really? Under what agreement is there that I need to drop everything in my life to fix your stuff, even if it's a bug in my code? That's why the licenses are basically saying as is. In fact, do I have my license up here? Yes. Oh. Well, I thought existing item. I thought I had the, there. Okay, so this is the one we want to get rid of. This is the one we want to keep. And since I'm here, I might as well make it 4. The software is provided as is without warranty of any kind, express or implied, blah, 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 blah. I will definitely do what I can to help you, but it's like in Batman. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. Which sounds a little extreme. But the point is, I'm not going to go through when there's nothing set in terms of like service agreements or anything like that. Now, if there are, that's a different story. But like if somebody came to me with, there's a bug in rocks, could you take a look at it? Yes, I will. Somebody actually did. It turned out not to be a bug, but it was something with a virtual member being called in a constructor. And that's problematic for rocks because I'm trying to set something on the constructor. Now, of course, you should not call virtual members and constructors because of the exact problem that this showed, because you don't know how it could be overridden. So in any event, I gave them a workaround, which was, could you like basically override and seal that on a type that you own, and then Rocks doesn't pick it up because it's not virtual anymore. And if you don't care about it being virtual, then maybe that's a fix for you. And he was like, yep, that works. Very cordial, and the guy was also very like, I really like your framework. I enjoy using it. I'm like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But being on an open source project where you get people that are somewhat demanding, I've heard stories. I'm sure other people have heard stories. It's not a fun thing to put a lot of effort into something and get people who basically want to use it for free without any contribution back. Whether it's financial or if you find a bug, it's like you could just open up a PR and fix it, because it's not like I'm not saying we didn't have. Did I fix this one? Yeah. It's not like somebody's saying, I don't have bugs, but I may not have the time to fix it. So would you be interested in doing that and contributing to the project? No, I can't because my company won't let me, or I don't have the time, or your code's too complicated, or any excuse/reason that they come up with, but you need to fix this. No, I don't. No, I really don't. It's kind of a rant, but So we are still adding one line of code to all of my test cases just to make sure that this is not involved. And again, this is something that actually people that write and author source generators, if they haven't already done this, maybe I'm late to the party on this. Another lesson learned, put excluded from code coverage on your generated code, because in all likelihood, you probably don't want it included. Or I guess you could arguably say, if you really want to let people make that decision, you could have like some additional file and allow them to configure whether this would be generated or not. I'm not interested in doing that. That's a bridge too far for me. So it's just easier to have these not included, and you never see it. All right. We're getting near the top of the list. we're climbing the mountain. I think we're on the other side of it, which is good because I want to make sure I have time to take a walk this morning. It might rain where I live this afternoon, so it's very nice outside right now, and I want to take advantage of it, especially again since it's Mother's Day, and you know, my wife had Mother's Day, so it'd be nice to go for a walk with her. Yeah, this is coming back to the thing I was talking about before with closed generics. I have to generate this type with a name of object because I actually have to say what the type is. That would actually get rid of actually having this weird looking type name here. It would be cleaner if it was an open generic. The more that I do this, the more I'm considering making that a thing, which is you cannot pass in a closed generic to rocks. It would be a breaking change, arguably, but it would be, I think, because then this would just be M create expectations of A. You know, with the A syntax there. I think that would look a lot cleaner. All right, where are we? We're in generics. As I mentioned before at the beginning of the stream, I am I will be doing more gameplay through streams just because I enjoyed doing it with Alien Isolation. That was, for me, so much fun to do. And there are games I played in the past. I'm thinking of doing the Batman trilogy. Those are awesome games. The Tomb Raider trilogy, the ones that came out like in 2012, 2014, something like that. I thoroughly enjoyed playing those games. Those were a lot of fun. And I'm also probably going to do, the next one will be Firmament, because I'm a huge fan of Myst and Riven, and now that I have a PC, I went, hey, I don't have to hope that they release it for the Xbox. I can play it on my computer. So I think I'm going to do Firmament next. And I am so looking forward to the Riven remake. In fact, they released a video yesterday. Let me just do this real quick. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. That out of the way. That out of the way. That out of the way. There. So that's a screenshot of the remake. I can't remember, again, I think is his name. Well, I played Riven so many years ago. It's like, 5 discs, and you had to keep taking the CD-ROMs in and out to change for scenes or change for areas. But I was a huge fan of Myst. I loved Riven, and now they're going to make it like real time and you can move around like they just did with Myst a year or two ago. And so, yeah, I'm going to just looking so forward to playing Riven. Probably do that as a stream. And what was I going to... Oh, so I played Abduction, which was decent. It wasn't like the greatest thing in the world, but it played a little weird on Xbox for some reason. But it was a fun, interesting game to play. But I want to give Firmament a try. Because, again, it's made by the same people who have done Myst and Riven, and I've really enjoyed what they do with their games. So I'm going to give that a whirl. I've also thought of playing, as boring as this would be, playing The Witness. I've played that game before. It was just a fun game to play. But it's also like watching somebody play it in a stream. Trying to solve a puzzle may not be as exciting as guns, explosions, you know. You just do this and, hey, I solved the puzzle. You know, I played it once and I got all the lasers up, and I did what I call meta puzzles, the puzzles that are actually part of the world, not just the ones that are on the board. Does not return. Okay. We're getting there. But I don't know if there's even a playthrough out there that has done 100% every single puzzle in the game. I think there are, but there's like one puzzle that it literally takes you minutes, if not hours, to complete, because it's in an area where you see these videos being played. And when the videos are being played, you can actually do a puzzle on the video, if I remember right. And there's one of them that it's like you have to follow like the moon as it's going through part of the area. I've never done it. I didn't even realize you could do that. But somebody's like, that seems overtly ridiculous to do in a video game to get to you know, solving that puzzle. And watching somebody do that in a playthrough might be the most boring experience in the world to do. But I like puzzle games. I really do. I am not a gamer that likes to, I used to play racing games all the time. I loved Project Gotham Racing 2. That was probably the most fun I had online playing with people. But I just, you know, having kids, time expectations, you start losing the reaction speed and all that other stuff. So I'm not very interested in playing games like that, or playing games online with people, unless it's co-op. That'd be, you know, then that's fun. Then, you know, playing games like that would be fun. The one Aliens game that came out like a year or two ago, and I forget the name of it, but the intent is that you play it online with people. You could play it alone. I did. Not very fun. You know, I could see where it'd be a lot more fun if you could play it with other people, but then that's the rub. You got to find other people to play with, and people that you can talk to and do strategy with and trust, and that they're going to do, you know, good things rather than stupid things. And hopefully I don't do stupid things when I play, you know. So, but I'm all for other ideas for other video games to try and play. Getting near the end of this, which is good, because my God, this is taking a lot of time. And sometimes when I've done the actual recording of my coding videos, I'll say I do this off camera, because I know that what I've changed works. I know that the fix works, and I don't need to sit there and go through all of this with people while I'm doing it. But it's also just, like I said, a fact of writing a source generator is when you change what it generates, you got to go back in and make sure that the code that you generate is correct. And like I say, all the time when I do presentations or when I talk to people at work or whatever the case may be, write tests. Yes, there's a cost. As you're seeing here, there's a maintenance cost in me doing this. But I don't know how many times I've said in my life, in my career, unit tests have saved my ass. They just do. You know, oh, I broke this. I didn't realize that. I don't know how I could have written this framework without tests and be successful at it. You know, where I knew that it was going to do what I think it should do. I think it would have been just almost an impossibility. I just don't know how. And so when people tell me, no, you know, I get when people tell me I'm on a project and there are no tests, you know, that's prior art, and you weren't responsible for it. You know, I get it. I understand that. But when people basically say, nah, I don't need to write tests in my code, you know, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to write tests. It's like even if you're a project of one, as I've thoroughly shown throughout my career, I can make very boneheaded decisions and just do things that I did not realize, you know. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. All right. I think I finally got them all upgraded and fixed. So let's see what this does. And then I remember to update the changelog, update the version number. I think it's already updated to 8.2 because that's going to be my next release. Yeah, it is. Okay. And oh, still got some failures. Why is that? I bet I just missed some. Oh, that's interesting. The words you never want to hear. Are these all on makes? Yeah, they are, I think. Yeah, so it's something on the make. If you're wondering, what are you talking about on the make? The make is something that's different. Ah, yes, right lines. Not right line, right lines. Oh, you don't know what that is. Well, you do now. So a create is typically the mock where you get an expectation class and you can new it up, add expectations, create an instance of it, pass that into something, that'll execute. A make doesn't have expectations. It's the case where a method that you're mocking needs to return something that implements an interface, and you don't want to create an instance of that. You can then create a make, which just creates this, for lack of a better term, an opaque instance of that interface or non-seal type. And then you can just return that. You can call methods on it, but it doesn't capture for any expectations. It doesn't do anything. So yeah, that's what I mean by the differences. Most of the time, if you're using rocks, you're going to be doing rock create because that's the right thing to do. Now we should be printing out 2 lines. And again, see, shows you, tests. Forgot to make your right lines, not right line. Two failed. Oh, that's getting better. What failed on this? Really? Really? Okay. I'm a little confused. So this is a class that does have a virtual members, and there's virtual equals and get hash code and things like that on it. Oh, I'm being stupid. I didn't add it to it. It's saying, yes, there should be one there, Jason. Why are you being dumb? No, that's the create. Oh, there's a make down here, and I missed that. Way down here. There we go. I just missed those. Okay. Let's run the tests again. And then everything should be fixed. In anticipation of that, generated code is now excluded from code coverage. And the issue is 312 because I put that in my branch name. There. And it all passes. Yay, time for a merge. So let's do git commit 312 updated tests and change log time for a merge. All right, so I'm going to do that quick. Git manage branches. Let's go to main. And yes, I really should do PRs on my own branches and then squash and merge and all that stuff, but I just don't. I'm a bad person. All right, push. We now have that done. Let's keep the branch out there and let's come here. We should now see these light up here. Close the issue, and that's done. I actually did something. Yay. Okay. So, and I caught something here. And just by me using this, I caught that I should probably disallow that to happen. All right. One more thing I want to look at, and I don't know if I'm going to actually get it finished in this stream, but one more thing I want to do, just make sure main has got the 312 added. Yep. All right. So let's delete that branch. Delete that branch. All right. So let's bring this one up to talk about. Here. All right. Give me a second. Ugh. Always good to stretch. Okay. So here's the problem. And it's not necessarily a huge problem, but it could be. So when you're building a source generator, you want to make sure that the model that you create it's immutable, for one thing, and it doesn't reference anything from the compilation. So what do I mean by that? So if I come into rocks here, and you'll see that I have models. Type mock model is a big one. You can pass that in here, like I'm passing in an iType symbol to the constructor. But I don't keep that around, okay? I only use it to glean information from to build my models. And so you'll see down below that I have these things like equatable arrays, other types like type reference model that also gets a type symbol, but its types are actually, or its properties are all like strings, equatable array, bools, things that can be, you know, that have their own sense of equatable, that are also not part of that are not symbols or syntax nodes in and of themselves. Like I use symbol kind here, but that's an enum. That's fine. Okay? And the reason you do this is because as people change your code, and people are writing code, your source generator is being run constantly. Okay. So the way that a generator works, long story short, it's part of a pipeline. And what they've added in with incremental generators is if your generator says, yes, I'm interested in this thing, and I generate a model, but by generating that model, the pipeline realizes that's exactly the same as a model that I've seen in a previous compilation. I don't ask you to generate code. Okay. Which is helpful because then you're not regenning code the same time every single time your generator runs. It's still and I don't know if there's any way to solve this, but it's still a little dicey because what I really want to say is, for example, if I come back into some of my tests here, let's do something like this. So I have an interface here and I generate expectations from, and I get this. Yes, it's got a squirrely, but it's fine. If I run all these tests, they would be fine. At least they should be fine. That's one of the weird integration parts of running these tests. You see they all pass. If you look down at the bottom here, they all pass. So, but yet it's saying, oh, I can't find this. Whatever. Anyway, this type is defined either in the project that I'm trying to test or it's referenced somewhere else and I don't have the code. But in all likelihood, this isn't going to change. It might as I'm developing new code, but typically it doesn't. What I'd really like from the compiler is something to say, hey, if the thing that I'm targeting here, if that didn't change the last time you saw it, at all, like whether you added, if this wasn't an interface, whether you added non-virtual members or static virtual members to this or whatever, I don't care. I don't even want my generator to run. Only if this changed in some way from the previous time. Now, of course, my case is a little extreme in that I'm saying the whole definition in and of itself, if it hasn't changed, then leave it as is, but that's not the way these work. You still have to create something, a model that gets passed into, if I come back up to here and I go into my actual generator, I'm using for attribute with metadata name, but that pushes out my mock model information. And that's what gets passed in to my create output. And this is where I'm actually going to now try to create output. And so this is called if the pipeline determines that, yes, you should create code, because we have not seen the thing that comes out of here before. So the whole point is that you need to make your own models that are immutable, that don't root previous compilations in terms of being in the garbage collector. So if you did pass back a symbol and it came through here, well, now it has to keep track of that symbol, that reference, for subsequent runs of the pipeline. And that's not a good thing. That sucks. If I understand this right, that, if that's the way it works. But if you create stuff that's like record-based and immutable and does everything essentially with value types or nothing from compilations themselves, you're in a much better position. That's the way you should do it. Great. But the one thing I've always wondered is, if you have a case like this and somebody puts in a new definition, how do I determine consistently that it's changed from one to the other? And what I mean by this is, does the ordering, actually if I come back here you'll see this. When I say I want to create something to mock this, you'll notice I'm going through all the constructors, all the methods, all the properties, okay? And I'm saying select, but I'm relying upon an order that was generated by essentially the compiler API. And I could look internally to see like this mockable methods results. That's actually coming from, where is that? Constructors. So if I look at what's calling this, you'll see somewhere up here. Yes. So I discover like constructors and methods and all this. And again, this is just the way I wrote it. But at some point I'm saying on the mock type, that's an iType symbol, get the members of a type where it's like this. Okay. And then I say to immutable array. Oh, look at this. I can use collection expressions. Oh, I could do it in like 3 spots. So I should. But with a constructor, how do I know what the order is of those things coming through? Does it even order them? Does it matter? I don't really know. But I don't want, like, here's the thing. This is getting to the point of it. If I had a method A and B that are virtual, and the first time this comes through, whether they're constructors or methods doesn't matter. The first time this comes through, I determine that I need to do mocking infrastructure for these 2 methods, A and B. Well, let's say that somebody adds in a non-virtual method called C for whatever reason. And the order of the methods that come back is now B and A. But nothing really changed. In fact, nothing changed from my model perspective. I don't care. Okay. And so now I would think, well, I have a new type, or a new type definition from my model. So now I got to go through and generate the code for it, even though nothing happened with it. Okay. And so one thing I want to look at real quick is, I know this probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I want to make sure that the model that I give with everything, including this equatable array, and this is something that somebody created to basically allow you to create an array. And when you do an equatable array, yeah, that's an extension method on an immutable array. You can say as equatable array. This is the thing that we care about. Okay. And somewhere in here, it does do equals. Sequence equals. Okay. Well, what's sequence equals? And this is on a span itself. So now we're relying upon a span telling us that the length of what we're giving it gets that length. Which is kind of weird that it does this, because you don't need to do this until you come into the if block here. I know it's not a big deal, but you don't have to run that code until you get to this point. So you could say the length here. If the length equals the other length, that's the first thing. If you have like 5 in one and 4 in the other, then obviously you don't care. And the same case, in both these cases, you're trying to see if the length is the same. Then what you do is you do this memory marshal stuff here, and you say do the sequences equal this way. Okay. And this is starting to get kind of down a rabbit hole a little bit, because the span helpers sequence equals is what we're trying to get at. Wait, I did not want to take a screenshot. I wanted to do this. So there should be in here somewhere. Where is this? Span. System span helpers. Where's, oh, okay. I got to click on that. Okay. Yeah, this starts getting really confusing, and it's highly optimized code. As you can tell, you're doing vectors and unsafe code and blah, blah, blah. But I believe what this code is doing is making sure that they're equal from a like positional standpoint. And let's test that out real quick. Let's write a test. Let's make sure that, where do I have equatable array in my stuff? Arguably, this equatable array thing that I and a lot of other people use should be part and parcel of .NET itself, having some kind of equatable array. Well, let's just put in equatable. Actually, let's not. Let's hold on. Let's make a branch. Okay. Because making branches are good. I remember writing code before Git in a lot of other source control systems, and I hated branches. Just if anybody mentioned, let's do branching, I would just like run away screaming in horror, because they typically always had issues. With Git, I've never, well, I'm not going to say never, but I don't have that fear anymore. You know, in fact, I've completely changed my tune, always making branches. And when, like in this case, I almost forgot. I was like, nope, let's actually make a branch. Okay, and I want to make a simple test here where I'm going to, and I have this in my editor config. It should make that namespace a top level namespace, but it doesn't. Public static class. So what I want to do here is say test and say public static void. Determine equality if lengths are different. So that's an easy one. We can say here var data1 is equal to, is it going to pick this up? It should. No, you don't know what that is, right? Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing here. We want to do that instead. But that's okay. All right. So then we want var data 2, which we're just going to have that left off. And now we want to say assert that. And actually, let's do that as equatable array. Nope, it won't pick that up, but I bet we can say new equatable array. And there is no way to assign that. Oh, we can give it an immutable array. It's a test. It wouldn't pick up now that I could do this, right? It shouldn't. Yeah, because it needs to, and it doesn't know what that is either. Okay, that's fine. We'll say that, and then we'll say here to immutable array. Now, what don't you like about that? Cannot create an instance of the static class equatable array. No, it's internal, but I have internals visible on. Does it need to be an int? Ah, there. Okay. Oh, and now what are you going to say here? Use collection. Oh, yay. Okay, cool. It did the right thing. And so now we're going to do this. Now we're going to say assert that data1 is. Now here's the thing. Equals, we want to do it on this. I want to see what NuGet's going to, not NuGet, NUnit's going to say, is false. See, now what it's going to try to do is say is not equal to. Ah, okay, we can do, and then it should use the equals on it. Okay, is not equal to data 2. There, run that test. And that passes, which is what we expect. Let's do the happy path too. If content is the same. So now let's do this. And order. Content and order is the same. This should pass. Okay? Oh, well, it should, and it does, but now we have to say is equal. There. Here's the thing that I'm really curious about, and this will determine whether I have to do anything in this branch or not. Determine equality if content is the same and order is different. So now what I'm going to do is just move the 3 over here and put the 2 there. What happens? And it fails. This is why I need to do what I'm talking about, because even though the content is the same, and that's what I want, the order is now out of whack, and so it doesn't consider them to be equatable. And that's fine. I mean, I get why it's doing that. There's a collection of certain in NUnit that would tell me, oh yeah, those are the same, or is it? I forget if collection assert does that. Collection assert are equivalent. What does it are equivalent do? Such that the expression or equivalent contain the same objects, but the match may be in any order. And that's what we want to do, but that's not what equatable array is going to do. And we're reliant upon equatable array use what's in the equals for span. And we don't want to change that. Okay. So just simply reordering them would fix this. But now I have to make sure that I'm doing the order the right way. So all of this gets to what I want to do here. Okay. Meaning when I say I want to select from my constructors here, I want to say order. But I have to say order by what? Okay. I can't just say order. Well, I could. I think I can do that. Yeah. Hold on. Let me get to what I'm thinking about. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go here. Go to my repositories. This is why sometimes I write code, because I can look it up later and go, yes, that's what I want to talk about. Is it here? I believe it's in here. Let's find an order. Yeah. So this is the thing that they've done in LINQ in recent versions, which is you can just say order based on whatever the way that you would order these things by their default. And that's what I care about. I don't care about like trying to say order by the name and then the number of parameters and the generic parameters. Blah. I don't care, you know. Now, of course, I'm also assuming that whatever I'm going to be ordering by here, so I'm going to say constructor model. Okay. And constructor model has parameters and a mock type. That's probably all I need. So I'm not even relying upon whatever iMethod symbol does. I'm relying upon what constructor model would say is equal between two and order by them. And that's exactly what I want. With a method model, it gets more complicated, but all of these things would come in to be part of ordering. And then I would be okay with A would always be in front of B in all likelihood, because you know, if everything else was equal, the number of parameters, overriding code value, blah, 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 there would be a name here. And eventually A is going to be before B. So it's going to order by that before that, I believe. I think that's how it's going to work. But the reason why I bring up order by is because what you have to do is essentially, well, you can say static here. Static just makes sure that you don't have any capture in your Lambda here. Okay. So, great. But what I really just want to say is order. And so there's, in new versions of LINQ, a way to say, how do I want to say this? We just say order, and then it's going to use the ordering by the thing that you pass in here. Okay. Now, these are all records. In records, I believe, implement comparable. Do they? Do C# records implement comparable? I believe it does. I mean, I could just do, yeah, let's say public record, sealed record, person, string. No, I don't want that. Name, uint, age. Okay. Yeah, it's going to run, and we can decompile it. We get a class here, which implements its equatable. Okay. Which I think is, it's not the same as comparable though. If that makes sense. You know, how would it like if I go into source.net and I say, look up a string, system string, this one, see it implements iComparable. And so what I really want is how do I want to say this? I'm probably, this is going to be a good time to probably stop with the stream anyway. But I want these to be ordered by whatever I'm passing in here. And so this will work where elements are sorted according to a key. And I'm assuming if it's not implementing well, let's try that. Why assume? Let's just come in here and say public sealed record person with string name int age, which should probably be a uint, but never mind. And of course it's going to say do not let this here, whatever. All I want to do is say, what happens if I put in here for people? And I say person here. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm getting there. So what I want to have is a new let's say everybody's 22. A new B and a new C. Let's do the same for data 2. Except we're going to move C over here and B there. Okay. Now, see, I can do order here. This is also the fact that this is in a newer version of LINQ and not seen in .NET Standard 2.0, which all of your source generators have to target, which really sucks. Well, let's just say order here. So now it's data 2. It's an ordered enumerable. Well, not really what I want. Var data 2 is equal to a new equatable array of person, or what I'm going to be giving it is a new person array where it's going to be initialized like that. Okay. We're going to say order to immutable array. And now you take it. But you say that can be simplified. How can that be simplified? Okay. Are they equal? No, they're not. At least one object must implement iComparable. So, and that's the rub. That is the rub. And even if I said order by here and I did the static, it doesn't matter. It's still going to fail because it's going to say, yep, one must be. So we're kind of screwed here. What I want is the ability to sort these, but I need to do a comparable. And so now what I'd have to be stuck with is writing my own comparison for every single one of these, which is going to go well beyond what I want to do in this stream. Okay. But I'm going to have to do something that probably does a comparison on like the name, and then the namespace. Like do those right away, and then the number of parameters. You know, and I'll probably want to up here as well. I'm going to have to do these as yeah, it doesn't do these as like a collection expression, which would be nice if I could just do this, but it won't let me do that. Or it will. Well. Because that's what I want. Just to me, it reads better. It's saying that's just empty, you know, and I like that better, but that's a different story. So what I want to do like here is I also need then, once I have all my models implementing the comparable, then see, equatable array doesn't implement equatable, or doesn't implement comparable either. Or it should. No, wait a minute. It does equatable. It doesn't do comparable. Right? It just says whether they're equal or not. It doesn't compare them. Which makes sense, because in our tests, that's what we were doing. We're literally saying, are they equal? We don't say... The comparison actually wouldn't work, I don't think. Like if I said... Yeah, I wonder if I set up here... Because this is not equal to. But if I did this one... Like if I say collection assert are equivalent. And let's take that out and run that. It does, but I think this one does it a little differently. I think the collection assert in unit is doing something where it looks through, like it says, are these equal in size? Yes. Okay, now iterate through the first one. Is 1 anywhere within this one? Yes. Okay, good. Take the second one. Is 2 anywhere within this one? Yes, good. 3, you know, something like that is what it's doing. And that's saying, are they equivalent? Yeah. But we would need to also have an equatable array, a way to compare them. We basically now need to do all these comparisons on all the models. And so this is where I'm going to stop, because this is going to take quite a bit of time to figure out and put my head around. Do I want to go this far? You know, I don't really know if I want to go there. And the last thing I want to mention is here, let's just quick do that. Even if I don't do this, I'm probably going to keep what I'm doing, because I want to get like collection expressions in here, because I like that. I method symbol, I don't know how that's implemented. So I don't want to rely upon doing an order by in the constructors with whatever the underlying type is that comes out of the compiler API that implements this. I bet it's an internal type, and I do not want to rely upon that. So that wouldn't be the right place to do it either. I got to do it on my own, and I'm going to have to do something to add comparable functions for all of my models, which, if I really think about it, I have to do it for equatable array. And then I have to do it for maybe equatable array, probably equatable array, but I definitely need to do it on all of my models. And some of them are big, like this reference model. The mock model, yeah, I would want to do it there too. So that's a lot of work. And it's a Sunday and I want to relax. So I think I've done all I want to do in this live stream. Don't know how many people checked it out, but that's okay. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be doing these every Sunday or not, but hopefully I can do more of these because, again, I enjoy doing them. So maybe in the next stream, I don't know if I'll work on this off camera and then talk about like the work I did and maybe move on to something else. But I definitely got to think about this and see what I am going to do. And I will be doing some streaming of video games in the future as well. So anybody who joined, thanks a lot for watching. And if you watch this later and you have any questions, just put them in comments and I'll try to answer them that way. But I'm done for this stream. Thanks, everybody.